lot for being here today. I'm Michelle Rioja, and I work in PR and digital strategy at The Square, and I'll be leading today's conversation. So first, I would like to get a sense of the room, so please raise your hand if you're a founder or you're thinking about building one. Okay, 1, 2, so I have the light here, so I can, okay, okay, good.
Majority.
Yes, nice. And how many of you are you planning to expand internationally in the near future? Okay, good. So it's a mix. So then this conversation is for you because we are here to talk about something that has changed a lot over the last few years, and it's what it actually means to expand globally today. So according to the Global Startup Ecosystem Report 2025, we're in a much more challenging environment. But, well, we all know that because we see the news, we know what's happening. But the fact is that we have global value down by around 30%, which is basically changing how companies approach growth and expansion. Because for many years, the playback was quite clear. You enter to a market, you analyze it, you explore it, you see how it works, you work on it, you validate it, and then you keep moving to the next market that you want to expand. But that's not longer a reality for many companies today, because nowadays, expansion happens across multiple markets all at the same time, with different consumer habits that change every day, different dynamics, and different regulations that, let's be honest, and you're going to tell me about this, but they are not always easy to follow and to understand. So, to talk about this, I'm very pleased to be joined by two experts who have first-hand experienced this process. So, I have here Ekaterina Gorbacheva, Global Expansion Director at Udora. It's a global gifts and flowers marketplace. And Diliera Lupenko, COO and co-founder at Impress, a health tech specialized in invisible orthodontics. Thanks a lot for being here today. So, to get started, when expanding internationally, what's something that worked in one market but didn't translate abroad, and what did you have to change because of it? So, Katarina, do you want to start?
Yeah, so thank you again for joining us today here. And first of all, Udora, it's the company that's already present in 50+ countries. And the diversity of these markets is massive. So when I joined the company 2 years ago, the first step was to actually evaluate this mess the company got into, because the company decided to expand everywhere, run the ads, performance ads, they were performing, but then we realized that, okay, but what about operations? How are we going to actually manage all of it? Because replicating one model to each market, it's not necessarily always work. What worked for us was to find the similarities of the markets. So we started breaking them by regions: GCC, LATAM, Europe, UK, North America, and then finding the similarities between them. For example, what was one of their interesting surprises is to find that in UAE and Brazil, there are a lot of similarities of digital behavior of people. That, for example, WhatsApp channel is one of the basic ones that people run. Email marketing works greatly in Europe, and it works in the States. But what about the acquisition of the shops? Because being a platform, I don't know how many of you are running platforms here, but when you have a platform, you always have this chicken and egg issue. And when you're entering the market, you always need to acquire locals. For us, it's an advantage for the local shops because we bring them orders all around the world, but and we get this local touch. But at the same time, our team always needs to find the right communication with them. And that's where we struggled in some markets. Some markets like Dubai, we just entered, boom, we have 300 shops. It was so difficult to actually communicate with the local market because French is simply more complicated people. I don't know if there are any French here, but usually that's the thing. Yeah, so there we couldn't replicate what we were doing before. And the best what worked for us was actually getting people on the field to go and talk to the shops directly because the human touch was so similar to them. And I think I will bring more examples forward, like
Yes.
later on.
Yes.
But now, yeah, let's
Yes,
move.
yes. Was
Thank
it
you.
the same for you, Diliara?
Actually, if you don't mind, I will introduce. Just probably not
Yes.
everybody knows what do we do. We are Impress. We are #1 chain of clinics in orthodontia. We are #1 in Europe. We work in 9 countries in Europe and in the USA. And what do? Basically, we ensure that we give affordable solution to change smiles in a modern way. Because if anybody would ever think of you of a dentist, probably like there is no any good memory out there. So that's what we want to change. We want to bring something very modern. So this is our business model. And then everybody could think about, oh, are there any existing dental chains in Europe that are operating cross-country? No, so we were the first ones. So therefore, we had to get on and invent our own way. And very quickly, we had to understand how to expand, because when we entered this business, we realized that actually after are we expanding to another country when we are opening the second clinic, because everywhere in the world, most of the regions, like Barcelona, is managed by one type of regulation, Madrid by another type of regulation. And then in order to open a dental clinic, you have to adapt from, well, day 2, after you really want to go. So for us, it was very, very crucial to understand what to localize and what to centralize quite quickly in our journey. So we had a little bit, and I super kind of aligned with you on that. You have to understand very quickly at the first clinic what is the core of your business model. What is the most important thing that represents your business model, and then you move to the clinic and keep it, and then if it's needed, you can twist. So therefore, this is also one of the early questions that we had to face.
Yeah.
And that was very interesting for us.
Yes, yes,
and
for
then
sure.
Another point that was very important for us is 2 more. Second point would be, what tools do we use? Because I think that operationally wise, you can also resonate with that. It's important, if you are set up for growth, to choose a correct tool that allows you to scale. So that for us, it's extremely important. We're dealing with patient operations, we're healthcare data that we are planning to structure. So we started AI quite early, so we needed to be very confident with how we treat patients' data and how we scale that. So processes and tools were important. Nothing is worse than choose a tool that is not scalable, because after that it's super expensive to move. And the third bit is how to create processes that are allowing you to adapt to your growth, which is front in the clinics, and make an engine behind this front layer of the clinics, which is in the center, in the headquarters. So how to create the processes that are scalable so that you can plug and place and open something which is very complicated, a dental clinic in Portugal, in Germany, in France, our favorite country, and everywhere else. So yeah, that was the questions that we had to face.
Good. Then,
Can I ask a little bit follow-up question?
Yes,
Because I'm
yes, yes.
genuinely curious. We didn't have much time to talk before the panel, to be honest. Like for us, the localization was a big issue because, for example, their gifting culture in different countries vary a lot, especially if you compare, like in Brazil, the St. Valentine's would be June 12th, and people are going to be ordering flowers and different kind of bouquets. When we're entering now Saudi Arabia, there are gift box, and we needed to localize culture. That was the most significant thing for our market. For you, you say in its regulations, but I have a feeling like didn't you struggle with the cultural fit as well, or not?
It's a bit different, the business model.
Yeah, of course,
Because
obviously.
we are super
Flowers.
lucky, and I think that we are in the industry where smile is universal, and this is definitely our communication. It actually goes even beyond any culture, beyond any nation, and beyond any language.
yes.
And that's why providing people a comfortable, modern solution to change their smiles, we are going beyond just a habit. It's a mission, so it is something that we live in.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see both of your perspectives because, well, for example, at Eudora, you have and let me know if I'm wrong, but maybe more like when you try to expand, you need to think about the branding, for example, and marketing. Like, let's see, I don't know, if the name is well spelled in the country that I'm going to be expanding next, you know? Like, that's maybe, that could be a challenge. And in the case of Impress, it will be, as well, you said, health tech. At the end, well, you have to be more careful with these kind of things that at the end can be like, it can have like very bad results if you don't do it in like correctly, right? So based on this, I would like to talk to you about like when expanding across multiple markets, where do you find yourself having to make the hardest decisions? And how do you decide where to focus? Like where to start? Like where there are so things that you need to develop. How do you build a house? So Dilara?
It's a tricky question because there are so many layers into that. And I would say not the hardest, but the milestone decision is like how to, as founders, right, and as the key people, to check what is the core to the business model. Because that's the biggest and one of the most important things that happens when you go localized. Because when you hire a GM, general manager in the country, to lead the country, there is definitely, you are looking for, in our case, localization. So we know that something has to be localized, but then the question is how much? And how to keep that to the minimum, because otherwise you are super distracted by many other things. So how to layer it and to give it high level. I will just give an example. For example, when you scan a patient to do the model of the teeth, in one country it can be, in Spain it can be a hygienist. In UK, it can be only a dentist, and everywhere in many other countries, it could be a normal person because it's not a very severe medical procedure. Even I can do it in the US or in Sweden. So therefore, it's a deviation. A scan needs to be done, but the actual professional needs to be adapted, and therefore, how to make it in an efficient way so that unique economic is working. So this is actually the core pillar, because the second one comes from whoever you bring leadership to the country, because if you bring a GM, general manager, how to get a great person adapt to a lean structure. And I think that's one of the most important things, because when a GM comes in, they want to have their little kingdoms. That's the reality. They want to have their little kingdoms. They want, oh, I need the operational person, please, por favor, or something like that. So, and this is, we saw in our case, it actually resonates with what worked. It didn't work. We know that we are in HQ are able to operationally monitor everybody much better. We tried call center in some departments. In some countries, they said, well, we're so local, we know where's the bus station, and so on, we can guide people. No, it doesn't work. For us, it didn't work, because we are monitoring number of calls, minutes, and whatsoever, much more rigorously from the HQ when giving it one or two people. And many people are serving many countries at a time. So that's we are creating those efficiencies. And the last bit is how to hire correct teams. So how to, again, ensure that this is what you've said about cultures, you know, when people say, oh, it's such a complicated culture to hire. And I was like, I need one person. Come on, find me one person that will fit our culture and will be great. And we actually even had a call one day when we had a very difficult market to hire. And it's like, see the big picture. So there are beautiful people everywhere. Just we need only one. And we're able to find. So with this mindset, we've been able to find quite similar-minded people.
Okay, good. It's interesting because now that you're saying this about localize and try to trust the team that you have in that market, in that country, at the Square, we work in creating communication and PR strategies. So it happens sometimes that we work with startups, like they are just starting to create the idea, right? So they come to us because they have so many things in their mind that they don't know where to start, because they come to say, I want to be in El País in the cover tomorrow. And it's like, okay, yes, but we need to like think a little bit, like if you are coming to Spain in this case, do you know if it's really gonna work? Do you know, some of them were saying, oh, I want to send this product to all Spain. And I said, have you considered if you're going to send in the Canary Islands Oh well, that's a good question. I haven't think about it. And no, I don't still have the website in Spanish. So it's like, at the end, well, that's where as consultants we work on that and say, okay, so maybe you need to start with that. You need to start thinking like, if the name is pronounced correctly in the market that you're entering. First, if you want to be next to the consumer, at least to have, I don't know, a phone number that could be contacted or something in their language, you know, that's something very, very important if you want to expand, no? So in that case, well, I would like to know your opinion as well. Like, what was like the hardest decision that you have to make?
So the harder decisions, like they happen like not every day, but I consider it as like, okay, it's just a work process. I think it would be more useful for the crowd to actually hear, because what you mentioned about jams was very interesting. Because I was the person when I just joined the company to say like, I was told like, oh, we need to hire like country managers, and I was like completely against. Like, we don't need country managers. We don't need to expand our team to 1,000 people. Like, it would be impossible to manage all of them, and it's very inefficient. So what we did, we actually restructured completely our teams and the processes so we can simultaneously enter the markets with complete localization. We have locals in the countries, but they're not managers. They're managers, for example, they work with the shops, or they could be copywriters. So we always have their local touch. We have people from 28 countries working among this 100 people. And each of them bring local touch to the company. But at the same time, when we enter in the markets, I call it like we broke it in a ladder. So when we just enter and we see the number of orders, like we have, for example, 10 shops, we have 30 orders per day. For the shops, okay, we just run performance marketing. That's it. Because creatives are much easier to localize. It's just designs and text. Simple, you run the campaigns, you run the ads. Then SEO, then CRM marketing gets in touch. After this, you go to their social media. You start creating social media channels. Because, for example, our social media team, they're like 5 people, and they run literally 15 accounts in 14 different languages. We have for sellers, we have for clients, because we need the social media presence. And we cannot create it for 50 countries. It's just insane. Not yet, at least. Yeah. And then we start partnerships and PR. So that's how we divide the budget without overgrowing the team. And that was one of their important decisions that I had to make in order to cut off the country managers. But at the same time, when I joined, we already had the Brazilian team. When the founders started expansion, they did it the way that we had local team in Brazil and we had the global team. And in November, I was like, so what's happening with the Brazilian team? We have 10 people sitting there, but the numbers don't match. We have 400 shops, but the number of orders, it's like, it's okay, it's steady, but it's not like booming, you know? For 400 shops, 70 cities, we have to have much more revenue. It just doesn't connect. So I started evaluating the team. I talked to them. I went to Brazil. Like, I met all of them. Then as a result, we found out that the issue was their head of marketing. It was just one person running their marketing budget who was making mistakes. So we restructured the team. And when the team became the part of the global team, they were run all of it by the 10 people. And we have 100 people. Imagine that amount of resources. So they were actually thrilled to be a part of the bigger team. And as a result, it worked much better. And for us, it was just adding one more country with locals, which was beneficial for both of us. So like, integration of the local team was one of the best decisions we did. And already just 3 months later, in March, there was a 1st February, St. Valentine's, even though I was told that St. Valentine's is in June in Brazil, but okay. There are lots of expats. You need always to segment people who are there and who you target. And we had the peak. We had a lot of people ordered flowers from Spain, from United States to Brazil, because their loved ones live there and they wanted to celebrate St. Valentine's. Then 8th of March happened the same thing. And then Mother's Day again. So it started running very well. So sometimes you need to, as you said, you need to go to overview the people. You need to audit the team. If something is not working and you see that it's suspicious and you're not an expert in it, better recheck. because GMs, as you said, they like to make their own kingdoms, and sometimes people are missing something. And you need to just first offer help. If they're not willing to cooperate, then either say goodbye and find a new solution.
This is actually very interesting that you say, because this also happened very early with us. We decided immediately to centralize marketing. And right now, we were so happy that there are so many AI tools there.
Exactly.
So our same influencers now speak so many languages, to be honest. And this is one of the decisions that we made very, very early. Okay, this is what is the HQ is for. Here is marketing, whatever other customer care and this. So definitely, I'm super resonating with you. All the time you add on a new FTE, you are very quickly having to make those well, startups, we all have to make those decisions fast. We are not ever talking about years. We are talking about months as a maximum to make those decisions and then scale and see what's working, what's not.
No, AI completely changed the game.
Absolutely.
Like, especially for operations, for globalization, like the amount of tools that we have, that we don't need to check the channels. We just, like, Spain is one of our biggest markets in Eudora. But and Spanish language is well established around everywhere. And we just relaunched Mexico like this, because we were able to actually to set the time at the right time, when the messages need to be sent, when the posts need to be sent, in which language, like with the local touch. And it became like super easy actually to launch new markets.
Yeah, that really jumps me into the next question, because we know the world changed every day, and you were saying about AI and these all new tools. So imagine that you are starting again today in this environment, like, what is it, 4th of June, let's say. Like, any tip, any advice, something that can help to these future founders to develop a company like the ones that you are part in now?
Centralized marketing. I think we both agreed here. Let's do the points.
Yeah.
What do you suggest?
Actually, I was thinking like kind of advice or not advice. I wanted to share what works. Exactly, like we've spoken, what didn't work, whatever, what works. And I think the most important thing is to hire correctly.
Oh, yeah.
So given our
Crucial.
scale, like, people make the difference. And that's kind of not easy. And I was thinking how to share that, right? So what do we mean by people? First of all, we need to hire for culture. It's very important to hire for culture, because and then every single of you is deciding what does it mean for you exactly. Somebody would be for speed, somebody would be for the mindset, and so on. So everybody decides what the culture means for them. Second, and I think it's becoming a bit controversial in the public area, is for the skill set. Yes, right now there is a trend to say, hey, we want to hire for desire to learn, but when we're hiring, at least at a startup, we want speed, and therefore we need both. We need young people who are really willing to learn and giving extra mile, but we need to have people on board who actually know the thing. So how to drive the business forward. So skill set is important. Like, and the last bit that was for us important, I think it's important for many others, is hire for the correct stage of the company. Because there are, like, at Impress worked absolutely amazing people, fantastic people, but sometimes you really need to know, hey, this is a beautiful person, a great person, but is he the right person for the correct stage of the company? Because some of them are already needing to perform and to give a high speed, a country that is at high speed, or vice versa. This is a great person that can be there, but the country is too big, for example, or whatsoever. So the correct stage of the company is a crucial bit for us as managers to decide when we are bringing on any manager or any junior to the team.
I totally agree with you. However, like, our topic today is the new rules of global expansion. And if we're starting the company today, I think what I would definitely suggest is, of course, hire the right people, but hire people who have the ability to learn. Because, like, for example, we implemented the training, AI training for all of our employees, because we want even copywriters know how to optimize their processes by themselves without like knocking tech team, can you please optimize this process for me? This is like, it takes a lot of time, while the tech team can actually build a new feature that would drive the revenue much higher. And that's very important to educate people. And at the same time, if we're going like outside for marketing, you need to follow their basic rules of today. Like yesterday, we had a panel about reshaping their digital era at the same stage and how AI is influencing it. And we've discussed that AI search is going to be already the basic. If you don't have like, will be agentic AI a part of it? I don't know. It's questionable. Maybe people not trusting it yet. So, but if your page doesn't have AI on it anymore, and you cannot, and you still have like thousands of filters and thousands of fields, it's already in a couple of years it's going to feel broken. So you need to be up to date with your product as well, because this part for growing into the markets, localizing the markets, you need to be tech savvy too, because if you're outdated, then I'm sorry, then you're going to just slow down and your company is going to just die from competition. So you have to be up to date.
Yes, and I think also at the end, when you are a founder, let me know if I'm wrong, like you're going to have mistakes, no? So at the end, it's going to be like, you have to learn from them. Like, it sounds easy, but I think, like to summarize, it's like, very insightful, or the things that you're saying. I will just add that, like, don't be feared to explore if you're starting, if you're founding anything. Like, it takes time, of course, but I think that that would be the main, like, to summarize everything, right? If you would like something else that you would like to add. Also, I would like to have some Q&A. If you have any questions, we're here to.
Oh, there are some.
So we have some.
Oh, well, go.
So you can, sorry, so you can say your name a little bit, and then your.
Sure. My name is Álvaro González.
Okay.
And I was curious, you said you had 15 social media accounts for 50 countries. I would imagine you would either do 50 accounts, like one per country, or just one account for every country. Why did you guys reach that conclusion that you needed 15?
We have 14 languages on the platform.
Okay.
So that's mainly one of the main reasons for it. But actually, like, I don't know how SEO optimization works. Like, the best works with local SEO. And with Instagram, it actually works the same way, with all social media. If you have their local social media, then it just works better to follow the right audience. So once Spain became like top country for us, we started the account for Spain. Brazil went the same, Dubai as well. When it was just the beginning, it was just one global account. And the company started, the first markets were Dubai, UK, and Brazil. A big diversity, but like that's how it started. It wasn't my choice. So the company already has gone through this, like, it's like you fail, you stand up, you do again. Like, and then we realized, okay, it's not working. We need to actually have the localized accounts. And right now, it number just continue growing. That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have, sorry, just like a couple of questions more. And
We're the last one, so we have time.
My name is Mariola. I was just wondering, hey, I guess delegating is a learned skill for most of us, or for some of us. How did you learn, or could you speak about the process of letting the country decide certain things for you, and how do you build that trust between the people you're hiring and the people who know the local markets and you guys who might be in another one?
You mean, how do you trust the people that you're hiring?
How do you trust their decisions, which are probably key to your business, and they have the know-how? How do you trust them to actually make that decision for you?
No, in our case, it's results. Like for example, there was an example with Brazilian team. The results, and the process, they're as simple as setting up calls, like bi-weekly, monthly, to see, okay, is there something going on? How is the market going? For example, we have weekly calls with the acquisition team. We have weekly calls with the marketing team. So just simply observing the data, what are the troubles, and then you collect it all together. Just thinking, simply as that. How about you?
With us, I think it's important to, again, like kind of going back, what is delegated? So to understand what exactly is expected from the country managers to be, or for us, it's important, obviously. It's a big chunk of people in the country, clinicians, sales, physical ones. So what is delegated? And then in order to have a good relationship, understanding, when you hire a person, definitely you have a level of trust. And you have to give that trust to the person. And then the question is, how do you calibrate the decisions that you would take with the person that you hired? It can be a GM, it can be whoever is working with you. So therefore, the way how we do it, so we have weeklies and so on within the teams, but with the key people, you have much more often meetings to understand, first of all, to train the person, but second of all, calibrate how do they see the same questions and how would they act in certain aspects. And then you see, oh, that's a culture person, culture fit, an expert fit, so that we see the things quite the same way. And then you get into the habit that, hey, these are these decisions that you do have to run by me. Kind of you go, hey, these decisions are yours. These are decisions you have to escalate. And the third bit is data. Kind of there will be certain decisions that you cannot actually see, but if you control the company through the data, and the data is never enough, actually, and that's actually what we are now putting forward to you, how to ensure that you as a manager having enough data in the company that will give you visibility of slight deviation, if there is any. There are so many metrics that you can do. Oh, what's going on in this country? These are the different tests that you can run. Some employee service, sales conversions, patients reviews, patient interactions. And it's just a tip of the iceberg. The data you can run through any country is enormous. And the way how we have to learn with AI, with Claude or whatsoever, how to get it fast enough, and how we can see those things and calibrate them quickly with a person you trust.
Okay, well, thank you. I know that we have more questions, but we're running out of time. So maybe
Can we have the last
you
questions?
can come after.
No, okay.
Yeah,
Guys,
so maybe you can come after to us. Thanks a lot for your time, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.